Welcome to the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education special meeting for Wednesday, December 16th, 2020. Has this meeting been properly noticed?
Yes, it has.
Would you please call the roll?
Garland.
Aye. Here.
Evans. Garner.
Here.
Herzog.
Here.
Olmsted.
Here.
Heschel.
Here.
Szilagyi.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The purpose of this special meeting this evening is to conduct a public hearing on modifying the the Educator Effectiveness Program requirements for the 2020-2021 school year. The first order of business is a call to order, so I call this special public hearing to order. The next step is the reading of the Educator Effectiveness Program requirements waiver. The legislature developed the 20 Wisconsin education standards found in Wisconsin Administrative Code Section PI 8.01, which establish minimum expectations for each school district. Standard 17 requires that each school district evaluate all licensed school personnel in their first year of employment and at least every third year thereafter. Wisconsin Statute 115.415 requires the special process by which all school districts meet the requirements listed in PI 8 for principals and teachers, the Wisconsin Educator Effectiveness System. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 public health emergency, we are requesting the Department of Public Instruction, DPI, to waive the requirements of the evaluation system for the 2020-2021 school year, with the exception of the following. 1. All staff and principals will complete a professional practice goal, or PPG. 2. All staff would have a minimum of 2 mini observations. 3. All staff and principals would be frozen in their current evaluation cycle. 4. All principals would have announced observations and site visits. 5. All staff would complete the self-review form this year. 6. All information will be stored in Frontline for future reference when staff/principals are in their evaluation year. Per state law, the district is holding a public hearing as required under Wisconsin Statute 118.38, paren 1, paren B, and will document the date of the public hearing as being December 16th, 2020, and submit it to the Department of Public Instruction. The next order of business is guidelines for public comments during this segment of the meeting. We would ask if anyone wishes to address this topic that you clearly state your name and address. If you are acting as a spokesperson for a particular group of individuals, we ask that you indicate the group you represent. Please limit your comments to the time allotted, which is 3 minutes, and please use public comments rather than a question and answer dialogue. State clearly and concisely the matters you have of concern. Please remember that the use of specific names of district personnel may lead to legal liability. In such cases, please pursue the district's formal complaint process by contacting the superintendent's office at 424-0160 to direct you to the appropriate administrator. At this time, we would entertain public comments on the proposed waiving of the Educator Effectiveness Program requirements for the 2020-2021 school year. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board on this topic? Okay, I see none. But I do see Dr. Jones. I don't know if you have any public comments or anything you wish to share at this time.
Just a brief overview so everybody understands where we're at and why we're asking for this approval from the board. First of all, I want to say that we have an excellent evaluation system in the Oshkosh Area School District. And when we're talking about evaluation, we're talking about both the administrators and the teachers. Is the evaluation that is required by the state law, as that what you just read, Dr. Herzog. So we do have an excellent system. The concern that we're bringing forward to you today is that system was never designed for some of the models that we're in. It has 22 different components, and a vast majority of those components don't apply to the half of the year that we've been in. And so what we're asking for is let me digress, on a normal year, 1/3 of the staff is on evaluation, 1/3 of the staff is on what we call support year 1, and 1/3 of the staff is on support year 2, and that cycle just keeps, again, the 3-year cycle keeps going on. The point I want to make here is, and again, on a normal year, we would be evaluating 1/3 of the staff. What we know as administrators and as people that give feedback to our educators is that giving them direct feedback on what they're doing and what they're doing at the moment is critical. So what we're proposing is to do actually more than expected. We would like to evaluate all personnel because they've done some new type of teaching, and we want to give them feedback in the virtual and the hybrid model and anything else that comes this year. So again, instead of doing 1/3 of the staff, we'd like to evaluate all of them in what we call a mini observation format. As already stated by Dr. Herzog, everyone would be frozen where they are right now. So if you were slated for evaluation this year or supporting year 1 or 2, next year we will not move anybody. We will pick up right where we left off. Other than that, that's the other big important component to this is that the computer system that we use to store all this information and reference it in future years is called Frontline. And Frontline is the computer system, and that system, all of this information would go into Frontline and would be available for future years for somebody to refer back to 2 years ago when they come up for their evaluation, or whatever year they would on. So it works with our system, but as a rule of law, only the Board of Education can grant this, and once it's granted, it will be submitted to the state of Wisconsin, and for their approval as well to change our system. You're approving it, but they would actually manipulate our system through Frontline. So we're asking for this because mainly, again, the rubrics were not set up for this, and we don't feel it's fair to evaluate our people fully and completely as we could on a normal year when most of the things don't apply. So that's the reason behind what we're asking for. Are there any questions that I can answer from the board?
Does anyone have a question or comment for Mr. Jones? I'm sorry, Dr. Jones? All right, and since there don't appear, is there anyone else who wanted to make a public comment on this agenda item? All right, seeing none or hearing from no one, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this special meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Evans?
Aye.
Garner?
Aye.
Herzog?
Aye.
Olmsted?
Aye.
Heschel?
Aye.
Szilagyi?
Aye.
Harlan? Aye. Meeting has adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jones.
Start 5 minutes.
The Oshkosh Board of Education is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly.
Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education regular meeting for Wednesday, December 16th, 2020. Has this meeting been properly noticed?
Yes, it has.
Please call the roll.
Garner?
Here.
Herzog?
Here.
Olmsted?
Here.
Heschel?
Here.
Szilagyi?
Here.
Harlan? Here. Evans?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Next, we move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Hartwell.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we move on to board and administrative reports, starting with the board president. There are a couple of pieces of information I would like to share tonight based on some feedback that we have received. First of all, I was asked to share a letter with the entire board from the Civility Project, and I'll share this by reading it aloud. As we close out 2020, I think we can all agree that this has been a unique year. Looking forward to 2021, we at the Oshkosh Civility Project are excited to share that we are celebrating our 10th anniversary of providing the foundation of civility here in Oshkosh. For 10 years, we have been sharing the civility principles as defined in the book Choosing Civility by Dr. P.M. Forney. When the Oshkosh Project began in 2010, we reached out to the community for support and acceptance. We are proud to say that the Oshkosh Area School District was one of the first organizations to adopt the principles of civility. The principles are simple rules of life that we learned or discovered in kindergarten. They are the core values that guide our words and actions. They are living proof that people with different points of view can engage in conversations while remaining respectful and considerate. We are grateful for the partnership with the Oshkosh Area School District, and we hope to continue to earn the privilege to collaborate and to serve you with our programs and philosophy. For additional information, visit us at www.oshkoshcivilityproject.com. To quote Richard John Neuhaus, a prominent cleric and writer, genuine tolerance does not mean ignoring differences, as if differences made no difference. Genuine tolerance means engaging differences within a bond of civility and respect. On behalf of the Civility Core Team, we want to thank you and congratulate you, the board, the staff, and the students on your efforts to embrace and apply the civility principles throughout the district. With our deepest appreciation and respect, and then you see the names there of 3 members of the Civility Core Team, Walter Scott, Sue Ponick, and Margie Davey. We are proud, I think, of the fact that we have adopted the Civility Project, and the poster like the one you see here can be found in all of our schools. Second, I wanted to address a question that has come up in previous board meetings. I know there's been a lot of frustration this year. The COVID-19 situation has tested the patience and tolerance of probably everyone in this room and everyone in the school district. And there have been opportunities for the public to come to the board table and to share their thoughts. We value input, and we do, even though we don't have an opportunity to respond under Wisconsin open meeting law, we do listen, and it does make a difference. In addition to the people who come into the boardroom to share their ideas, we also received lots of phone calls and emails and text messages from people throughout the district. Not everyone thinks in the same way or in the same, on the same topics, but we're doing our best as a board to try to balance the needs of our entire community as we together work through this pandemic situation. The Wisconsin open meeting law requires that the board must address those items, or is allowed to address those items that appear on the agenda. So when we have a non-agenda public forum, it's very likely that we're going to have items that are brought up that are not on our agenda. And so that's why we do not engage in dialogue with the public. So it's not that we don't value your input. We do indeed. We respect what you have to say, but we just want to make sure that we are within compliance of the state open meeting law. And finally, I just want to read a short statement. Dr. Cartwright has the support and confidence of the board. These have been difficult and challenging times for all of us during the pandemic, which we all look forward to working through. Next, we have the superintendent's report.
Staff members at Carl Traeger Elementary recently participated in the school's first social justice book club. Each month, staff have the opportunity to sign up and participate in the club, and a new social justice topic will be discussed using the novels. The purpose is to have courageous conversations as a staff about equity, identity, and biases. Over at Oshkosh West High School, Oshkosh West students in the Project Life program recently made Thinking of You cards and door decorations for the residents of Bethel Home. The students were discussing surviving in the pandemic and thinking of others that could be lonely. Students from Merrill Elementary School recently enjoyed a virtual visit with Michael Perry, best-selling author of the book Scavengers. Students were able to ask him questions about the writing process, and they even got some spoilers for the book's upcoming sequel. Oshkosh North High School art students have been busy exploring their talents. A virtual art spotlight their efforts, and the community is invited to check out the incredible artwork which is available on this slide and on the district website. Level 2 students in the Communities program at Oshkosh North have been learning about historic landmark U.S. Supreme Court cases. In an effort to further their learning, students will be creating podcasts focused on the cases they are studying and asking the question, how do Supreme Court decisions affect daily life? December 19th marks the start of the Hmong New Year. To help recognize this celebration, one of our ESOL staff members created this interactive presentation explaining parts of the Hmong culture. In our district, we have over 400 students who speak Hmong at home, and we are grateful for the opportunity to highlight this special time. I wanted to take just a moment to explain a couple things. We had a meeting last Thursday and appreciate the information that was shared with us. We heard you loud and clear on 3 messages. We heard that families and students are struggling both academically and mentally. Everyone has options except for families who want 5 days of in-person instruction, and that our parents need clear and concise communication on the whys in the decision-making process. We are hopeful that with the revised matrix, it will become easier for the community to anticipate needed transitions. We did start with the decision to go into hybrid learning rather than 5 days a week to continue to facilitate our transition into 5 days of in-person instruction. We will continue to need to monitor our safety protocols and make adjustments as needed as we continue with this transition to getting students back into school full-time. We did want to go over the matrix at a higher level, and I asked Ms. Conrad to go ahead and make some of that information available for us.
Right. Good evening. A group of us worked together on revising the decision matrix when it comes to what model or instructional model will we be in for the Oshkosh Area School District. One of the things that we held at the heart of this group is once we know more, we're going to do more with that information, and once we know better, we're going to do better. And so with that, we decided that we needed to make this clear and concise so that other members of our community and our school district could predict and easily see why the decisions were being made and or where the start of the decision-making process would be. So there are 2 indicators. The first thing right at the top is something we call the main indicator. The main indicator looks at the burden rates across the district and is used to make the decision on what instructional model the entire district would be in the district-wide model. And so you can see that Model 4 virtual learning for district-wide would only be or would be when it's a mandate or under advisement by a state or local entity. Going in there, then you can see the next level for Model 3 hybrid would be at a critical high burden, very high and high burden. And you'll notice that that's where we are targeted to be on January 11th. From there, you can see the burden rate at moderately high and moderate to be in Model 2 with safety protocols in place for COVID-19. And then Model 1, as we've described before, would be back to what we would consider traditional instructional model. But that's the main indicator that gives us guidance as a district of where we would be. Then we go into our secondary indicators. And the key thing to remember with a secondary indicator, and what we heard loud and clear, is that different grade level groups in different schools, we should not hold them back from being in a particular model just because another grade level, another school or classroom or whatever is in that piece. So by grade level, school, and classroom, we look at the following. First, we look at staffing availability. What does that tell us about which model that we need to be in? Second is we look at the number of positive cases, quarantines in individual schools and classrooms, including early learning PK. Okay? And then it would be the grade level burden status. And notice that it was broken down into K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12. We are committed to be in-person learning as much as possible. So because of that, when we look at this piece here, we want to be sure that if an age level or a group is able to be in a particular model, we are in that model.
Thank you, Ms. Conrad.
Thank you, Ms. Conrad.
Sorry, Mr. Peschel.
Can I ask a question? So I guess my question just becomes in regards to the defining of positive cases, because we get asked, all of us as leaders, we get asked the question, if we look at the Winnebago County Health Department, they've now started to begin to lump positive cases and probable cases together. So I'm wondering how we define that, if that's different in the county.
We are not looking at positivity cases, we're actually looking at the burden rate.
Okay.
And the burden rate has its own calculation related to that. You're right, it's based, but it is true, it is based on the positive cases. It does not take into consideration probable cases.
Okay. All right.
So I have one question. I know we're going to vote on this tonight, and so it's not, but are we not voting on this tonight?
No.
Okay, sorry. As of right now, we're in the yellow. And all the secondary indicators are that we could be back in hybrid today.
We look for a 3-week pattern. In other words, we look for 3 reports, or that's why maybe a 3-week pattern. In other words, we would have to have a report from maybe like the past 3 Thursdays
Okay.
that would not have been at that critically high level.
Okay, so then that needs to be in the
well-
secondary indicators,
Well,
yeah?
again, this is effective. We're using this in order to drive the decisions going forward, effective when we come back in January.
So what I'm trying to do is
My
reconcile.
apologies, I misunderstood the question.
It's okay. I'm just trying to reconcile what my understanding is, what the community's understanding is, and how do we help everybody to understand and simplify this so that it makes sense to most people. So like when I just look at this now, just me as a person, I say, okay, we're yellow, and we've been decreasing for 3 weeks. So like that my only question is, how do we make this clearer maybe? And maybe that's not fair to do this right now in this meeting. But this still feels unclear to me. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. And I'm one person, so.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Might this be related to the fact that the model has been updated as of Monday and shared with the community? And
That's
so we
my
were-
question.
So
I'm
we
not
were
sure why
operating
we're-
with the previous model, as it were. Is that
Yeah.
accurate?
We were trying to make it clearer, right?
We were trying to make it clear.
Okay.
Because people didn't it was like, okay, how are you making the decisions?
Yep,
So in this
right.
one, what we're able to show is that when we're in, we will not be going effective, when we.
So
on
this doesn't
January-
count until January 11th.
We're going to be looking at this when we come
Got
back
it.
from winter break. So that first week.
I see.
The first week in January where we're still,
Okay.
we're in virtual, because the recommendation is that the week after a major break like that,
Yep.
you need to be in virtual.
Okay.
Okay, so, but that could count as like, if we're still seeing, for us to take a look at where are we in engaging and looking backwards and those kind of things. So
Okay.
this is basically
This is for
effective
next year.
January 11th.
Okay.
Does that make more sense?
Yep. Yeah. Then the next question is like, but I don't advocate that we go back today. I just was like, if this is going to be the new model, when do we adopt it? And it sounds like we're going to adopt it January 11th. Because it's 2 weeks after a major holiday, is what I'm hearing from you.
Is when we're not going to adopt it, but implement, correct.
Okay.
I apologize. I know
It's
it's
okay.
semantics.
So just to be clear, we've already adopted the matrix. We've empowered Vicki and the administration
Yep.
to implement it
Yep.
and to revise it.
Yep. And
That's-
the purpose was, I thought the purpose was so that it would be clear.
Okay.
So my only question is this clear?
Okay.
Can I
hope-
answer that for me?
I guess what I'm hoping is that if people go to the report and they look at what's for the Oshkosh Area School District boundaries.
Yep.
Because the top part is for us to move as an entire district.
Yes.
Okay?
And then schools will do what they need to do to,
Right,
Yep.
if we have individual needs at schools that occur.
Okay.
But that's going backwards. In
Yes.
other words, going back into virtual, right? But we also wanted to have a way in order to go forward.
all the way.
To go forward.
Okay.
Because we're able to also, if you click on the hot link there, where it says secondary indicator, and it says source OASD, if you
Yeah.
click on that, it'll give you a graph.
Yeah.
And on that graph, you can see for the K2 band, the 3-5 band, the 6-8
Okay.
band, and the 9-12 band, what is the trend? So
Mhm.
you can see and anticipate, we're coming up on a third week here, and it's, and it's trending downwards, then that's the time where now we can start taking into consideration, do we want to go ahead now and look at going into in-person 5 days a week? So it gives us the flexibility to not only go backwards for those unique situations,
Mhm.
but definitely to go forward.
All right, well, we'll see how it lands, I guess, right? If it's still not clear, we might have to keep working on it, maybe.
Yes, we're open to that. We're
Good.
not
Okay.
locked, we're not,
We'll just keep working at it. I mean, we
Yes.
haven't done this, we haven't had a pandemic before, so.
True.
Okay.
But we will do what we need to in order
Okay.
to facilitate communication.
Good.
And continue to try to help people to be able to understand that. But again, the primary indicator is for district-wide movement, that's what's needed.
Okay.
And then the secondary indicators is for those grade bands.
Yep.
And giving us the flexibility to move forward. In other words, maybe we can't go for the entire district in Model 2, but we can do it in K2, or
Okay.
4K
Okay.
through second grade. Then we're going to do it for that grade band.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. I think that I'm hopeful that this revised matrix will allow us to get our students back in school, not only in a hybrid model, but in a 5-day-a-week model as soon as possible. And I think that what I've seen and what I believe I understand the model to be, that is certainly something that we can expect, hopefully sooner rather than later, as long as the community spread and the spread in the schools is down, so.
And we know what to do. You wear your mask, social distance, stay home when you can. It's pretty simple to get the 5 days a week.
Okay, any other comments on the matrix, the revised matrix, or updated matrix, I should say? Thank you.
Then we have one more slide. So in our schools, so on the screen, you will see just a few examples of where I've been spending my time for the past couple of weeks. With that, I'm going to ask for Mr. Kamer to come up and just give us a brief update related to COVID-19.
Good evening, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Cartwright.
So to piggyback on Mrs. Conrad's update on our matrix, I usually begin my report by talking about the Winnebago County Data Summary. That comes out on a weekly basis. It looks at the prior 2 weeks and takes into consideration a number of pieces of data, but what that really does is it uses a case rate, which is determined by the number of new cases in an area per 100,000. That case rate is then used to determine a burden status, and the burden statuses from that weekly data summary align with the matrix that we use. So in that matrix, there's a link that goes directly to the Winnebago County Data Summary. So For this most recent report, which came out last Thursday, it looked at the dates between November 25th and December 8th. And again, when we talk about the particular case rate and burden status that I'm going to be referencing from this report, it looks at the geographical boundaries of the Oshkosh Area School District. So for that time period, the case rate was 569.6, which placed the district in the very high category. Now, the encouraging piece of that, even though we're in the very high category, is that we've been trending downward over the past few weeks. And Allison, you referenced that. But the last time I did a board update, we were over 1,000 for our case rate, and we were still considered in a critically high range. So the fact that we're dropping significantly is a good sign. Now, just a word of caution, in the report, the Winnebago County Health Department did say that part of that decline may be due in part to a reduction in testing over the Thanksgiving holiday. But all in all, it's a good sign that it is going down, obviously. So one other piece of news that came out last week is the CDC was revising their guidelines for close contact, so people who have come in contact with someone who tested positive for COVID-19. The typical quarantine timeline for those individuals has always been 14 days. The CDC came out with some guidance that shorten those timelines in some instances. Now, in order to meet one of those shortened timelines, which are 10 days and 7 days, essentially, someone would have to be asymptomatic up until the 10th day. They could then return from quarantine on the 11th. For the 7-day quarantine, they would have to be asymptomatic through the 7th day. They would also have to have a negative test result, and that test sample would have had to have been taken on day 6 or later. If they meet those criteria, they could potentially come out of quarantine before the 14-day timeline. With that being said, they would have to closely monitor their symptoms for the remainder of what would be those 14 days. As a district, we are being cautious in terms of rolling out those timelines. Just because the CDC gave those as options, it doesn't mean that's their recommendation. They're still recommending 14-day quarantines because that is the safest. And when they changed their guidance, they didn't all of a sudden have new information that showed shortening the timelines would be safer. You're essentially taking on more risk, but if you follow the guidelines that they provide, along with the mitigation measures, you're limiting that risk. So at least for the time being, we're going to move to the updated quarantine timelines for our staff. For students, for the time being, we're going to stay with the 14-day quarantine, but we are going to take another look at that as January 11th approaches, and we may make an adjustment to that. And that's all done in consultation with our school nursing staff. Additionally, I just wanted to remind everyone that district staff and students are able to take advantage of the COVID-19 testing that is in place at UW-Oshkosh. And in the report, there's a link that staff or students can go on to click and schedule an appointment. They do have some revised hours around the holiday season, so I would check that out online before you decide when you want to go in. And then we also have our OASD dashboard that continues to track the number of positive cases and quarantines for both students and staff for the district. And again, it looks at active cases and then cumulative cases since the start of the year. And that was last updated on Monday, December 14th. And as of Monday, we had a cumulative total of 422 positive cases among our students and staff since the start of the year, along with 3,637 quarantines. That concludes my report.
Any questions for Mr. Kimmer? All right, thank you, Mr. Kimmer.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have committee reports. I know we have at least 3. There's an education committee report, a policy and governance committee report, and a facilities and finance. So I'm not sure who would like to lead off tonight. Looks like Mrs. Szilagyi's ready to go, so we'll start with her.
Sure, yes.
So the Education Committee met on Thursday, December 3rd to talk about the English for Speakers of Other Languages program plan. This was presented to us by Dawn Shimura and Julie Conrad. It's in our board packet. We're actually going to vote on it tonight. It is a 115-page document that's used as a handbook for staff on how to work with families who have who are learning English for speakers of other languages. This is changed each year or updated. One of the changes this year included updating the term English language learners to English for speakers of other languages. A student in the program is referred to as an English learner, or EL. We know there's always acronyms for these things, right? And they will be given an individual learning plan that's housed in EduClimber. Students that are new to the district complete a home language survey as part of their registration process, which assists in determining if the student needs to be screened further to determine English proficiency. Students receive services based on their level of proficiency until they reach a score of 5 on the access test, and that is when they are exited from the program. There is another option. It's a tool that consists of observations or artifacts that are used to assist in determining the student is proficient in the English language if they are close to the 5 but don't quite master it. I, of course, appreciate that, as we know that assessments aren't always the full indicator of where a student is at. Testing starts at the kindergarten grade level, and students in grades 6 through 12 enrolling with refugee background receive acquisition through language and academic supports. That's our ATLAS program that addresses the needs of students with limited or interrupted formal education due to their refugee background. Let's see, let me look at my notes. Bilingual teaching assistants have been beneficial in supporting teachers and working with students to help us create communications that go out to families that are translated in various languages or written in English simplified version. The district's complete EL population is down to 5%. Previously it was 6%. Students with refugee background total 133. There are 60 home languages spoken in the district. There are 3 ESOL teachers at North and 2 at West, which is proportionate to the number of students at each location in the program. Currently, EL students do attend in-person school based on their needs and as determined by the ESOL team and the family of the student during the COVID situation. We use a lot of grants to fund these programs. So there's the Refugee Impact and Youth Mentoring Grant money. It's been awarded to the district for 6 years. The ESOL department includes a part-time multicultural outreach coordinator that's 100% grant-funded position, a part-time grant manager, and a full-time ESOL coordinator. Grant activities include school year preparation and orientation, summer check-ins for students with refugee backgrounds, bikes for kids and adults. You can go to their families as well. Community partnerships with the Winnebago Literacy Council, Boys and Girls Club, World Relief of Fox Valley, St. Vincent de Paul, and many, many others, including UWO Pure Mentors. So this is a program where we're really reaching out and using a lot of our community resources to benefit our students and their families. Our favorite part of the program was some of the pictures shared to show students participating in dance club, drum club, and the bike program. We always love seeing our programs in action with those visuals from the photos. So that was our meeting, and our next meeting will be January 7th, where we're going to talk about Act 31, teaching about Native Americans, and social studies curriculum update.
Thank you, Mrs. Szilagyi. Mrs. Garner, are you ready?
Sure. Facilities and Finance met on December 10th. The first item was related to the 1-hour time frame. I was getting a little nervous that we were going to go over, and so everybody agreed that we were going to try and keep it to an hour, and we we continue to go to the 1-hour time frame, so it is now official. We're going to make them 1-hour meetings. Second item was to try to deal with, we have per hour employees that we annualize throughout the year, even though they work year-round. And so there's this misconception that they're salaried. And so what we're going to do is we're going to bring them back. We're going to stop annualizing them and go to their true time, which is actually going to simplify their lives and simplify Business Office as well, because it'll all be part of the software. Then we talked about the Pollock Pool, which, as you know, is an agreement between the city and the school district. And in that contract, we supplement the cost, any losses that the city experiences from this pool. And we've always given them $40,000. Given that the pool was closed, we would like to look at this contract, do a 1 year, and let our rec department determine what does the pool look like. Let's have a new look at all of the operations, and let's see if we still want to continue to do that moving forward in our next 3-year contract. But until then, we want to do a 1 year and look at everything. Then we did a budget variance report. We were off because we had 3 pay periods in October. Obviously, that's going to right itself in November. And then food services an analysis has been added to the report. When food service doesn't make money, we have to shift funds from Fund 10. Food service revenues run approximately 2 months behind, but the expenses obviously are incurred real time. So the district started to partner with Feeding America, which will bump up food service revenue, and the food pantry in Oshkosh contacted the district to see how we could partner. Okay, and then we talked about the recommendation, which we'll be doing eventually, and the CPI is 1.8, and the recommendation is that we go to 1.5. And so we talked about that and our concerns around not getting the CPI. And Mr. Nehans reminded us that overall, including steps and liens, they will still get about an average of a 3.1% increase. So we're going to still exceed the rate of inflation. The CPI increase is not going to match inflation, though. That's the recommendation. And then the last thing that we talked about was the rec department is opening it's open now, December 14th. It has been closed since the start of COVID, and they have done significant remodeling to get the
The air handling.
It was the air handling, thank you. Get that in order, and it's open, and so they're back in business. Future agenda items include the sports complex out on Riff Road. Remember the committee that? And then staffing comparison, and then adding the referendum as an agenda item for our future committee work together. Next meeting will be January 21st.
Thank you very much. And Mrs. Olmsted.
Policy and Governance Committee met on Monday, the 14th, and the agenda, they're not on today, so I actually have to read them to you guys and tell you what happened, because you didn't see them yet. So these will all come to the board on January 13th for approval. We visited a few policies. We visited policy 7440.03. It's small unmanned aircraft systems. This is a new policy because we are deleting 7441, the unmanned aircraft. We just changed the policy and aligned it better in the policy guidelines. This policy was created by Neola to describe the circumstances where approval may be prohibited may be provided for district staff, not prohibited, provided. Big difference for the district staff to use unmanned aircraft, for example, drones, in a manner compliant with WIAA and the FAA. The policy requires approval for staff use of drones on school property, but places the obligation to be compliant with FAA regulations on the operator of the drone. And then we looked at 3131 and 4131, which is reduction in staff. These policies were revised to include language providing for a process of using staff furloughs. This was brought by Neola because of because of the pandemic and what other districts are going through also. Defined as temporary layoffs to cover budget shortages or to relieve staff during unexpected school closures. The use of furloughs must be consistent with contract language that may prevent employees' hours reduction or compensation reduction. Then we looked at 3231 and 4231, which is outside activities of professional and support staff. These policies were revised to add the reference to 3230 and 4230. So it just reads so that when you look at that policy, the two of them read together so that you know that the conflict of interest goes with this one so that you don't have to look it up. So just make it easier to read those two policies. And then our last policy was 4130, assignment and transfer. The policy was revised to clarify who is responsible for the assignment and the transfer of support staff. So our future meeting and agenda will be on January 11th at 8:30 in the morning.
Thank you, Mrs. Olmsted. Next, we move on to the non-agenda related public forum. We have guidelines for this, for our public forum, which we read at every board meeting. We ask that you clearly state your name and address. If you are acting as a spokesperson for a particular group of individuals, please indicate the group that you represent. We also ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. Please use public comments rather than question and answer dialogue, and state clearly and concisely the matter of concern. Please remember that the use of specific names of district personnel may lead to legal liability. In such cases, please pursue the district's formal complaint process by contacting the superintendent's office at 424-0160 to direct you to the appropriate administrator. And just to review the civility guidelines or tenets, which we were complimented on in the letter from the Oshkosh Civility Project. First, pay attention, which we all intend to do around the table here, and we listen. Be inclusive, don't gossip, show respect, be agreeable, apologize, give constructive criticism, and take responsibility. Thank you. So we will begin tonight with Mark Keynes.
My name is Mark Keynes. I live at 1320 Snowden Drive. Thank you all for letting me speak, and thank you all for the service you do to our community. I'm a parent of a student at Oshkosh West. I'm also a PhD virologist. I've been studying viruses since 1978. I'm very pleased with the matrix that's been presented today. And actually, what I was going to talk about and what I will talk about is completely consistent with the matrix. And so I had 4 principles that I would like for the district to consider with regard to opening the school for in-person instruction. First, I think there is no debate that the benefit of in-person instruction is unarguable. And second, that I think everyone is agreed that that is the goal of everyone here. The difficulty comes with implementation. And with implementation, I'd like to suggest that the board or the administration use 4 basic principles. First is to use broad data and input, right? Using just data from school-age children can be misleading because our children are part of the community. In addition, we have teachers, we have staff, all kinds of others who are part of the community. So looking only at one small age group, I think, can give a skewed notion of ways forward. We do have to keep in mind the opinions of parents. Parents are very aware of their children, of the needs of their children, but parents are not necessarily experts in these matters. So while they should be heard, they should not have the veto power. And I'm a parent, so perhaps I shouldn't be saying that. You need to follow the guidelines from Winnebago County Health Department, from the Department of Health Services at the state level, and from the CDC. You also have to keep in mind the physical features of the buildings that will allow different uses of the buildings with different requirements. Oh, geez, I'm almost out of time. Okay. The last thing I'll say then is that the opening must be sustainable. It's one thing to open, but when we open, we need to stay open. And the people that should be making that call are the administration of the district. That is the superintendent and the senior administrators. That's why we pay them. Thank you for
Thank you
listening to
very
me.
much. Thank you. Appreciate your coming. Next is Christopher Carnes.
To let the table dry here before I put my...
Please feel free.
My name's Christopher Carnes. I live at 1009 Windsor Street. I thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to speak. That was very well said. Gentleman before me, very well researched. So I just want to talk on a positive note, what the schools are doing for my kids. I have a kid, 8-year-old in 3rd grade at Franklin, 6th grader at Tipler, some other nieces and nephews in the school district, including one that's a freshman at Oshkosh West. The teachers have been fantastic, and I want to make sure that they are being talked about for what they've done. And so my kids, you think it's going to be a wasted year, and to be completely honest, in the spring it was rough. Everybody was thrown into into this. We're in a pandemic and it's difficult. But this fall has been well done. I not only see that they're not losing ground. I think that they are progressing. I see positive developments. My 6th grader is really finding enjoying reading, and he found a teacher that's really helped him. And so, as much of a struggle as this is, those positive moments are to be applauded. And my 3rd grader, his teacher has always been available. There's one time on a Friday afternoon at 4:30, he still had science to do, and she was able to jump on a quick call and help us out and get everything completed. And it's been a struggle. Every day and every moment is different. He's 8. Some days he brings out a beanbag chair and sets it in the kitchen and starts, sitting on that instead of a chair, but at the table. But he's finding a way to make it through and doing what he can. So from that standpoint, I want to make sure that teachers are applauded, and they have done tremendous. Education is a community item, and the gentleman before me was talking about that a little bit. And it's not owned by the parents or by the teachers or by the students. It's a community item, and so I liked that the representative from the Winnebago County Health Department was here and was speaking through some items. I think that's really important and good to hear. So, continue making the best decisions for the community at large, and ultimately that's a lot on us too, to make sure that our schools get back open. So, thank you for the work on the matrix. I hope that it does. I like the information. I did tend to agree a little bit that it might be just a little bit rough to understand at first, and maybe as we get going with this and we start to see data and we find ourselves where it flows, that it'll work out well. So thank you all very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Carnes.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Next is Julia Solomon.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Julia Salomon, 1320 Snowden Drive, Oshkosh. I am a parent of a high school student and someone who deeply cares about this community, including our school district. I happen to work in the field of public health during a very difficult time, but I am here today to speak as a parent, not here representing the public health department. I've been involved with the school district as a parent for the 10 years we have lived in Oshkosh, in PTOs and various district committees. I have attended school board meetings, brought my concerns and suggestions to the school board listening sessions in the past, and have always felt like I was heard. I have seen firsthand the effort the members of the school district administration, the superintendent, and the school board members have put forth to be as transparent as possible. I have also seen just how difficult some of the decisions the school district has to make. The person or persons who are charged with making decisions have to consider evidence-based data, best practices, all along keeping in mind what is best for the students, which can differ from year to year and student to student. This is not an easy task. Throw in a pandemic of epic proportions due to a virus that has managed to split this community apart. Who knew a highly contagious microscopic organism would pit family members against each other based solely on whether they would wear a face covering? We now have parents who are divided about what constitutes a safe learning environment for their children. We have parents who believe that despite the threat of COVID, returning to face-to-face learning is an acceptable risk they are willing to take. Other parents who, despite agreeing that face-to-face learning is the most ideal way to learn, don't want to take that risk. We have teachers, some of them parents themselves, who are equally torn. They miss their students and at the same time are concerned about their own health as well as the health of their family members. The school board has heard passionate pleas from teachers and staff to not return to face-to-face, while also listening from others requesting school go back to normal. Unfortunately, during a pandemic, there is no normal, and there will be no back to normal as we know it. There will be a new normal, but at this point, we don't even know what that entails. This is the environment in which the school district has to function. During a pandemic, there is no winner, and no one should pit student against student, teacher against teacher, and parent against parent. What is ideal for one family is not ideal for another. What is ideal for one school district may not be ideal for another. What I have learned from being involved in this school district and having access to COVID data is that the decisions school districts make are incredibly hard and that they are fully aware that one shoe does not fit all. They have to base those decisions on data about a virus that is ever changing. Local data that changes on a daily basis and changes fast. And they have to make decisions that are as equitable as possible for the nearly 10,000 students in our district. Ouch!
Can you finish in about 15 seconds,
Sure.
please? Thank you.
COVID is not the only health issue this community, like others, have had to contend with. Our community struggles with the substance use issue, mental and behavioral health issue, homelessness, and food insecurity. These are not mutually exclusive either. The school district has stepped up as a strong community partner to help in the fight against these issues as well. In closing, if as a parent I cannot trust the school district to make sound data-based decisions, who am I going to trust? Don't get me wrong, I'm just as frustrated as other parents. Do I want my child back in school? Sure. But first and foremost, I want her safe and happy. And I trust that the teachers, the administration, and the decision makers here today are ensuring that that will happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Next is Chris. I'm not sure of how to pronounce the last name, maybe Visic?
Very good.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chris Bisich. I live at 1296 Wheatfield Way, Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I'm here to say, as a parent, I have a daughter, a senior in the high school system. I realize that all of you are faced with very difficult decisions. And in the past people of talking, I agree 100% with most of what they have said. I am the parent who would like to see our kids back in school. My daughter specifically has had many issues with virtual learning. Not that she was a straight A student, she's been a straight A student through the entire Oshkosh School District, her entire 12 years of school. However, this virtual learning has had a real impact on her ability to continue that. And I want to say, first and foremost, the teachers have been doing a phenomenal job. It has nothing to do with the teachers. It has to do with the barrier between virtual and in-person learning. There is just no comparison. It just, you can't do chemistry on a virtual topic. You can't do biology on a virtual topic. These things need to be in class. I sat one day watching her try to figure out a calculus problem with her teacher, who was also struggling to get that information across a computer. It's just not the same. I understand the need to graduate to in-person learning. I understand it. I'm a dental hygienist. I work with people all day long and am faced with COVID every day of the week, all day long. I understand what everybody is going through and the thought process of, being afraid of this. But in the same aspect, I also look at the side where my daughter and many other children are having difficulty with this, as well as you as board members and teachers have difficulty with it also. I just hope that you look at the matrix and you make data-based decisions on it, and that these things are trending down, and we should try to get our kids back into school. I would love to see them go back 5 days a week. I personally want to apologize to you, Mrs. Cartwright, or Dr. Cartwright. You have taken the brunt of all of this. And you are just the head of all of this. You're getting information from many different sources. So I wish you well in all of your decision making. And I hope that, again, that the board makes decisions based on data and that we get our kids back in school, because they really need it. There are many classes they just can't do with virtual learning. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. Oh, next must be Nadine. Nadine Tarabishi?
Yes, Nadine Tarabishi, 1553 Plummer. I know I've already emailed a lot of you, and thank you so much for your responses. And also, thank you for bringing up the confusion on the matrix, because I know a lot of people were wondering about that. I have 2 children in the school district. I really had no intention of becoming involved. But lately I feel desperate and feel I have no choice. My children are desperate, as I know 80% or more of your school families are. And I feel I'm going to get emotional, because I know there are a lot of parents not sleeping, and I know there are a lot of children suffering. And who would have ever thought we would have to fight to send our kids to school in 2020? And in the United States of America. It's embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. I was raised in another country, and I wish I were there, because my children would be in school. I cannot keep up with Canvas anymore. It is possible that this close to the end of the school year, I'm giving up. Nothing I do and no effort I put in, or my children put in, who used to be A and B students, can make virtual learning better. It is a failure. I know we all recognize that from the data. I know the plan is to go back 2 days a week next month, and that's wonderful. I pray that that promise is kept. It struck me in a disgusting way when the gentleman last week had the gall to get up at the listening session and talk about risk and liability. If you think the parents are thinking about liability insurance right now, you're sorely mistaken. We are only thinking of the future of our children, and that is the #1 priority. It seems the children are being left behind in the mission, and that's kind of what I notice a lot about what we're talking about here tonight. Is I didn't hear much about children except from the last woman. I worry that if this district changes from the model on January 11th, because I know everything that we're seeing is, up for consideration and whatnot, that we are going to see devastating consequences, and the light at the end of the tunnel will close for some of these children. It is time to straighten out priorities. Going to school 2 days a week will also be a failure. We have to take steps, as other districts have, to get the future of our country back to school. Education is the most essential and basic service. I have a hard time understanding why almost all of these parents in our school district are considered essential workers and still go to work, and why grocery store, gas station, factory workers all go to work, but for some reason school employees do not have to. Soon there will not be a choice. In a few months, your employees will all have the option, if they are fearful, to get a vaccine. And there will need to be a very clear path back to work for these individuals. Oh, gosh.
That's
I'm
okay.
so sorry.
Just if you can wrap it up in about 30 seconds, that would be great.
Unfortunately, it is true right now that our children are being held hostage and are victims not of COVID. They are not suffering because of COVID. They are suffering because of the school system and the decisions being made within, and possibly because of the view of one individual. I ask that the checks and balances be taken back. In closing, I would like to remind you of your board member ethics policy, Section K, and I quote, "Remember always that their first and greatest concern must be for the educational welfare of the students attending the public schools." Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Next, we'll hear from John Fitzsimmons.
Hello.
Hello.
I'd like to stand and deliver if you don't mind.
Sure, that's fine.
My name is John Fitzsimmons, 2375 Hamilton Street.
I'm Eliana, and it's hard for me to learn on virtual and Chromebook, and I miss my teacher and friends.
I wanted you to see one of your shareholders. This is my granddaughter. I heard the board president say at the beginning, this is a unique situation. It's been a unique year. It sure has been. I remember when it started, back in March, April. And I remember hearing somebody say on the radio or TV, this is like World War II. Well, if this is this generation's World War II, this community is failing miserably. My father fought in World War II. I had brothers in Vietnam, and those people stood up and they did what had to be done. Right now, there's people who go to work every single day. There's people who have to be at work every single day. And we're here saying we can't go to school. Yet, Amro, Winneconne, Berlin, and now I heard today Green Bay is going back full time. Maybe we're following the wrong matrix or something. Something just doesn't add up to me. How can these other school districts have it all together? We can't. We are doing damage to this generation right here, and all the children from her age all the way up to high school. We're going to look back at this in 10 years, and I think we're going to have a really bad feeling about what we did, what we didn't do, how we didn't stand up. If you people need help getting these schools open, talk to the community. I'm a grandfather. I've got time. I'll be willing to come in and clean, help teach a class, and I know there's a lot of people like me because I talk to them every day at the restaurants, at church, at the places I go where I have to go and work. Every single day I hear the same exact stories. If they need help, ask. We're willing to help, willing to pitch in and do what needs to be done. Just like the generations before us who pitched in. When times were tough, we all pitch in and we help each other. Having the schools shut down is a disgrace. Now, I voted for some of you people sitting here. I'm not going to say which ones, but I have voted for you. I hope I'm not going to regret that vote, because that's very important to me. The people that I vote for, I had trust in you. So I don't know what we do to get past this. But again, reach out to the community, reach out to the grandparents, to the parents, to the people who are in the community in these schools who have these kids. We're willing to help. We're willing to pitch in, whatever you need. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And thank you to your granddaughter for coming, too.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is C, NAGS.
I can't hear you. CNAGS, I live at 1564 Villa Park. I'd like to start this off by a raise of hands. How many of you here, sitting right in front of me, have a child in the school district as we speak? Thank you. That's what I thought. That's exactly what I thought. Barb, you stated your decisions are to help balance the needs of families. I don't think you have a clue what that means. Yes, I'm talking to you.
I understand.
You also mentioned you
Excuse
value
me.
us as parents as
Just a
input.
point of order, we don't allow names.
You also mentioned you value us parents and you value our input, but your actions don't really prove that. You also mentioned
Again,
Vicki as
point
a
of
support
order.
of the board members. I find that also hard to believe that every board member here supports Vicki's decision.
Again, we don't use specific names. because that could
Transparency
lead-
seems to be an
lead to legal
issue that this board
liability.
specifically, Vicki doesn't know anything about. When the teachers got the bad reputation, ma'am, that they were lazy and didn't want to go back to school because they just simply didn't want to work, where was your transparency there to own up to the decision that you guys made that choice, not the teachers? I mentioned to Vicki last week the cost of funerals that I hope you built into your budgets. You're harboring psychological issues that don't need to happen. What do you tell your 7-year-old when he looks you in the eye and tells you, Mommy, don't let me die. I just want to go back to school and see my friends. What do you tell him? You want me to put you on speed dial to address that to him? He just wants to go back to school. Let me remind you of the parents who don't want to go back to school. They had a choice. It's called E-Academy. For those of you who don't want your children to go back to school, that was an option you had at the beginning of the school year. Kids who are good students are failing. Dealing with psychological issues they've never dealt with. Us parents, we don't even know how to deal with this ourselves. You, as the board members here, collectively, act like drunk bipolar monkeys, and even they can do a better job of what you're doing.
Point of order.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next would be Emily and Adam Stadmiller. Mueller.
Hi. We are Emily and Adam Stadmiller, 3601 County Road N, Oshkosh. I work for a local healthcare agency here, run a bunch of clinics in town, so have been knee-deep in COVID since this had all started. And then my husband works. You want to come?
I work at Oshkosh Defense, and I also farm.
So we live on a local farm here as well, and we just want to share our side of the story here as working full-time parents. We have 2 kids with the Oshkosh Area School District. One is a kindergartner and one is a 2nd grader. We echo what everyone else has said about the teachers. They've been absolutely fantastic through this whole process, and we are very grateful for our teachers. Since the Oshkosh Area School District has gone virtual, we've had to hire a young individual who we scrambled to find, like many others. And as we're not able to step away from our jobs, that it has also additionally put on unplanned financial burden to our family to pay them to watch our children do their virtual. And so we pay her to come and she does her virtual college education at the same time. Just so you're all aware, when we share, we're going to give you a glimpse of like what a day in the life looks like for us. But when we're talking about this, know that there's a large portion of our day where we're obviously doing our, performing our essential jobs and our normal duties, which again, I'm knee deep in COVID since the beginning of time here. Kids wake up, perform normal duties in the morning, our normal routines as we would. Then we review our children's agendas for school, assist in prepping for supplies that will be needed for their virtual sessions. We complete their attendance then. I try to remember to do this in the morning as this burden has fallen onto the shoulders of the parents. And I don't want to forget, there's plenty of times where we wake up quickly before midnight and rush the computer to quick put their attendance in. We don't want to miss that. We wait for the tutor to arrive in the morning. The tutor then does get there. Again, she works on her college virtual education while the kids manage their own virtual workload, a kindergartner and a second grader. There's plenty of times where I've gotten a message that my kids have missed their live session due to the fact that that she's being consumed in her own education, rightfully so. Frequently, it's noted that my second grader has to slip off, apologize to his classmates and his teacher that he has to help his kindergartner sibling either navigate his live course or do his homework as needed. Then we arrive home late afternoon. Sometimes I'm way late into the evening, depending on what's happening at the hospital or the clinic. And we have to tend to the farm demands, so we tend to the farm quickly. Quick, get a family dinner in. There's no longer a time to have any sort of sit-down meal. We get to homework. We do homework and watch videos as quickly as we can, which then really butts right up to bedtime. This creates a ton of fears, a ton of tears and frustrations from our children, as they've been robbed from their family time and outdoor time now due to this educational model.
I'm sorry, could you wrap up in about 30
Yes.
seconds, please? Thank you.
We
Oh,
gotta
I'm
keep
sorry, I'm sorry.
That's okay, I'm almost done.
Oh, thank
Okay.
you, Linda. Oh,
Thank you.
Yep.
So this creates, so we just really, they don't get the time to get out now, and we also don't really get the time for family time at night because we do the homework and the videos all the way up till the bedtime. This has impacted their social and mental health, and it's been very hard to deal with. It's been a rippling effect into the marriage and overall the family dynamics. It feels as though you're not only hurting the children's education, but you're hurting families and relationships. This hybrid model only makes it difficult for working families, from what we can speak to, because it is this part-time help that we have to work through. We know we're at a place in our community where we can get the kids back to school 5 days a week. It's important for us to be creative in our decision-making as a district, to make sure that our schools are staffed appropriately, using all the information that the local school districts around us have used to optimize this. If we can make this a priority and focus on it in healthcare, at our healthcare system, we put our heads down and we slammed this out and worked as an incident command team for a couple days, and we were able to come up with a successful plan to operationalize this in a healthcare system. I'm really struggling as a leader to figure out why this is taking sometimes 9 months and really not successful yet. So really just looking for not only data to be used, but also logic to be used as well to get our schools back to full time, and really wanting to see a jump over that hybrid matrix right into a successful 5-day program. Anything else you have to add? Thank you.
Thank you both for coming.
Thank you.
Next is Robert Rigoni.
Good evening. Robert Goni, 4556 Bellhaven Lane. My topic is just some observations, so bear with me as I read these statements. I appreciate your time. We are not all in this together. We hear many leaders say we are all in this together, but are we really? It's a fallacy. Not everyone can benefit or have good fortune to be able to work from home. Not everyone can earn a living from behind a computer screen. Many people need to be physically present someplace other than their home in order to support themselves and their families. There are little grounds to dispute that the response to this virus has created an abundance of disparities and inequities. Many in our community have carried a highly disproportionate burden due to the shutdowns and school closings. The status quo cannot be maintained considering current conditions. Our district needs to consider all stakeholders, especially the ones with the highest burden and whose plight has become very difficult. The irony is not lost on me that the group least affected by this virus, the children, suffer most with our policies. Our community needs a message of solidarity, empathy from our school district. I would like to share with you a snippet of a message posted from the Hurley School District back in my hometown. Well, actually I'm from Ironwood, but neighboring city. Our philosophy, the process we use, and our main goals remain unchanged. Kids need to be in school, and every professional organization associated with our kids, our parents, and the Hurley school community in general believe and support this reasoning. Kids of all ages thrive when a 5-day-a-week schedule is provided with one of consistency and predictability is the norm. We know kids are supported in school to a level not typically achievable when school is not held in person. Working parents are placed in a real predicament when an in-person school is not an option, or when impactful decisions are made without notice. We will continue to look at the total impact of our school community when decisions of magnitude are made. Our goal and promise to the students, parents, staff, and community are to remain consistent, predictable, and transparent. The key elements allow us to continue to foster a positive relationship with all groups. It's a team effort, and during a crisis like this, we need everyone to work collaboratively and support one another. I know the Hurley District is much smaller than OSAD, and it's not fair to compare. However, the message is one of solidarity, and I agree with the decision to maintain a 5-day-a-week in-person protocol. We in Oshkosh should do the same. I ask that decision makers always consider all the variables, check blind spots, to be self-aware of bias, and be cognizant of cognitive dissonance. Consider all stakeholders and outcomes, good and bad, when making a decision as grand as closing down schools. There needs to be a sense of urgency for new heuristics, more flexibility, more creativity, and more adaptability. We need to do this as if our kids' futures depend on it, because it does. And thank you for your time. And I know this is difficult for everyone, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Next is Nancy Schultz.
Well, hello.
Hello.
Thank you guys for doing this forum. Honestly, it's really important that you guys do hear what everybody has to say.
Mhm.
I'm not here actually as a parent. I am here simply as a community member, an observer. Fortunately, we've been able to stay open, but I also employ parents of young children. These parents go, some of them are in Berlin, some are in Winneconne, one is e-learning, and some are in Oshkosh. So I can feel their pulse. I feel what they're saying. I also am a hygienist. For 25 years, I also had cross-section of Oshkosh. I know Oshkosh and how people feel. I also knew what PPE meant before everybody else knew what PPE means. I had masks that I could donate to the fire department. And they figured out a way to make things work. They did have to go and play football in Neenah because of the health department here made it very difficult for them to do that. Why? I don't know. Why is it that, as an observer, why is it that the other communities, their matrix seems to be different than yours? Why can't we do that? I don't quite understand that. Like I said, as a business owner, I'm open, and we've done it safely. I had masks, I had these things. We are adults, and we go to work every day, and we're teaching our children, no, you can't go to work even though you're not high risk. My daughter happens to be a teacher in the Oshkosh school system. She does have partial live students because she's a specialized teacher. She's frustrated with the changing things that's going on. She is constantly getting different, can't think of the word, but she's constantly getting different changes and she can't seem to keep up with those things. But she also had COVID. She feels like, why can't I take off my mask and get on the floor with my student? I'm inoculated, which is actually true. It just doesn't make sense. I also sat on Saturday with a secretary of a high school, and she also says that most of her friends that are teachers want to actually have a choice whether or not to be in school, out of school, or such. My employees all express a choice. Again, that's really why I'm here. I just don't understand why you can't have a choice. Not everybody has to teach. Not everybody has to be virtual. Why can't someone be live? There's really no reason to have more time. You guys have had a lot of time to have a lot of multiple different matrices, different ideas of how can we do this. We have huge gymnasiums. Maybe the whole kids go in the gymnasium and the one teacher sits in a one-class schoolroom. I don't know the answer to that. Maybe the teacher moves around. Again, I don't know the answer to that. That's really what you guys are for. But as an observer, it looks like a lot of hypocrisy. It really, really does. To watch this physical sports going on and not physical academia. Where are our priorities? So again, thank you again for being here, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you for coming tonight. All right, next we move on to the agenda.
Is that the last speaker? That's the last speaker?
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Next, we move on to the agenda-related public forum. I don't believe anyone signed up for the agenda. Not aware of anyone. We'll move on to the consent resolution agenda then. For the consent agenda, the board has been furnished with background material on each item or has discussed it at a previous meeting. These will be acted upon with one vote without discussion. If a board member wants to discuss any item, it will be pulled out of the consent agenda and will be voted on separately. The board will consider approval of, oh wait, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. Is there anyone who wanted to pull anything off of the consent agenda for tonight? I would like to pull 6B, retirements. All right, so then the board will consider approval of the following. Minutes of the November 18th, 2020 regular board meeting, minutes of the December 2nd, 2020 regular board meeting, minutes of the December 2nd, 2020 executive session of regular board meeting, minutes of December 9th, 2020 executive session of special board meeting, bills payable, personnel, A, appointments, resignations, and salaries. 7, English for speakers of other languages or ESOL program plan. And number 8, PC workstation replacements.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Herzog?
Aye.
Olmsted?
Aye.
Peschel?
Aye.
Szilagyi?
Aye.
Harlan?
Aye.
Evans?
Aye.
Garner?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much. Resolution 6B, be it resolved that the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education approve the retirements as filed with the Secretary to the Board of Education.
So moved.
Second.
I had asked that this be pulled so that we could recognize some valued employees who are going to enter the stage of life known as retirement. Patricia Anderson is a full-time certified occupational therapy assistant. She's currently serving at Webster Stanley Elementary, Lakeside Elementary, Jefferson Elementary, Shapiro STEM Academy, and South Park Middle School, and will have put in 26 years of service for the children and staff and parents of this district. Karen Kubinski is a full-time literacy resource teacher. She's currently at Franklin Elementary School and has been with the district for 23 years. And Dan Westfall, Assistant Custodian Fireperson 2, currently at Perry Tippler Middle School. Dan has been employed with the district since 1988, which means that he has been in our district for over 30 years. So I want to commend the service that Patricia and Karen and Daniel have provided to the students and parents and families of our district, and certainly wish them all well in retirement, and may it be a long, healthy, and happy one. Any other comments on these retirees? Then please call the roll.
Olmsted?
Aye.
Peschel?
Aye.
Szilagyi?
Aye.
Harlan?
Aye.
Evans?
Aye.
Garner?
Aye.
Herzog?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Next, we move on to individually considered resolutions. The first one is Resolution 9 tonight, approval of a request to modify the educator effectiveness evaluation for the 2020-2021 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any comments or questions on that? Then please call the roll.
Peschel?
Aye.
Szilagyi?
Aye.
Harlan?
Aye.
Evans?
Aye.
Garner?
Aye.
Herzog?
Aye.
Olmsted?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Resolution number 10, be it resolved that the Oshkosh Area School District, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, that is the right one. Approval of WASB resolutions. Be it resolved that the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education hereby direct the WASB delegate to support resolutions forwarded to all WASB members prior to the convening of the assembly. Be it further resolved that the WASB delegate is directed to vote on amendments or resolutions that arise from the floor of the delegate assembly in a manner that is consistent with the position of the original resolutions as filed with the Secretary to the Board of Education on December 16th, 2020, in accordance with the rules, regulations, and policies of the Board of Education.
So moved.
Second.
This is our annual meeting where we discussed the resolutions that various and sundry school districts submitted to the Wisconsin Association of School Boards. There were 3 meetings that were held over a period of weeks back in October and November. This year there are, I believe, 11 resolutions. Are there any questions on any of the resolutions that you received? These vary from a 1-cent sales tax for school infrastructure and technology, increasing broadband access to all students across the state so that they have an equal opportunity to learn, holding enrollment harmless because of the impact of the pandemic, providing instruction on indigenous tribes, which we learned earlier about tonight, or Act 31, special education in the pandemic, assessment and report card waivers, Affordable Care Act, district administrator evaluations, comprehensive school safety legislation, and finally a review of school mascots. Do you have any questions on any of those, any comments? I would just remind you that Mr. Evans is our delegate to the WASB Assembly, and that convention will be held virtually this year. I believe the date is January 20th. And it's all virtual. And by signing up for that convention, you will have access to all of the sessions for a full year, so you don't have to plan to
That's kind of nice.
give up your week in front of a screen. All right, if there are no questions or comments, then please call the roll.
Szilagyi.
Aye.
Harlan.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Garner.
Aye.
Herzog.
Aye.
Olmsted.
Aye.
Peschel.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Very good. Are there any requests for future agenda items of the board?
I might have one.
Okay.
I don't know if this is the right place to bring it up, so you can stop me if
Okay.
you want. But I wanted to suggest that the policy committee look at a policy. So would this be a good time to suggest that, or should I?
Well, if it's not it's not a future agenda meeting.
No, okay.
So you can just email the chair of the Policy and Governance if there's a policy that you want us to look at.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, sure.
I would like to suggest that we invite at least the core team of the Oshkosh Civility Project to come in and just review for all of us what they've been up to. They also have an interest in having us review our commitment to the Civility Project to see if, in effect, we want to re-up, as it were. So I don't have a specific date in mind at some future point in time when it would fit into our agenda.
Okay.
Are there any announcements this evening? I suspect many of us have been inundated by advertisements for various things. At this time of year, we know it's very, very common for families and friends to get together at this time of year, and so many holidays going on at this time of year, whether it's Kwanzaa or Hanukkah or Hmong New Year or the Christmas holiday. I'm sure I've forgotten some, but I know there are various holidays.
Festivus.
I'm sorry?
Festivus.
Festivus, I wasn't aware of that one, thank you. But I just want to wish all of our students and their families and our staff in our community a happy holiday season, whatever holiday it is that you and your families celebrate. This is a good time of year to get together, whether that's in virtual or a Zoom meeting, as I heard someone describe earlier, as we remember to wear our masks and keep our social distance and avoid large crowds, wash our hands, so that we can bring our students back to school in January and 5-day a week. If we all do those things, I believe we can meet that goal. So I hope we can work together on that. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session under Wisconsin Statute 19.85 paren 1 paren E. A, Oshkosh Education Association, or OEA, negotiation strategies. B, Oshkosh Paraprofessional Employee Association, or OPEA, negotiation strategies, and C, Non-Teaching Employee Association, or NTEA, negotiation strategies.
So moved.
Second.
Please, Mr. Peschel.
I didn't take the second, I can't take the second. No, so I'm
Oh.
giving it to Colin.
All right. Well, thank you for your generosity in this giving season of the year.
So, discussion? Can I make one?
Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to sit out this session as my wife is a member of the district teaching team, so I'm going to leave it in your able hands.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you for that clarification. That's appreciated, Mr. Peschel.
Thank you, Ms. Peschel. And if you don't mind, if I can see you real quick before you leave.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments on this motion? Please call the roll.
Harlan.
Here, aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Turner.
Aye.
Herzog.
Aye.
Olmsted.
Aye.
Peschel.
Present.
I'm sorry, Whitey.
Present.
Salaji.
Aye.
Meeting has adjourned.
Oh, wait a second. I need a motion and a second to adjourn. No?
We did have.
We already have
that.
We did.
Oh,
just
did
did
we?
that.
Oh, yeah, we did that part.
Remember,
Never
I gave it
mind.
away?
Yeah, please the first.
Well, it's on the agenda twice, so it was confusing. Sorry.
Folks, we're staying in this room for executive
Oh,
session.
okay.
Because we've used our overflow rooms where we normally meet.
Okay.
Mrs. Piron, I want to thank you for your assistance this evening.
Yeah, thank you, Linda.